There is a photograph from Horn Island. You have seen it. It ran for days. It was cropped into thumbnails, argued over in comment sections, screenshotted and reposted until it stopped registering as anything at all. Most people looked at it once. A crisis communication strategist looked at it on live television and delivered a verdict in under 6 seconds.
Oh, these little liars. I told y'all that Jax was the ringleader. I told y'all. He sat in this interview and he was telling stories about shit that he wasn't even there to witness. So let's break down some of the stuff that I heard in this interview. Let's start with Warren's first phone call, because y'all will remember that Warren said that he was over at Ava's house for that 4th of July party when they all started realizing that Nolan was missing, and he called Miss Christine at 11 o'clock.
One of the first things I told Miss Christine Wells in the first phone call that ever occurred with anything to do with Nolan Wells being gone, because I was the first person to call Miss Christine about anything. First phone call, anything to do with Nolan Wells, was me making a phone call to Christine Wells. And one of the first things I said to her, with multiple witnesses here, pull up the phone call if you want. She said, oh, well, Nolan's location is with y'all at, where the house we were at. And I was like, well, no, he left his phone with us. I told her this.
And yesterday, the same time that this interview came out, Christine Wells said this.
360 says that he's on land, and he was like, well, no, I mean, when we have his phone.
So both versions of the story say that Warren didn't tell her about the phone until after she confronted him with the 360. Now, Warren tells Miss Christine that he knows somebody in the Coast Guard and that he's going to call them, which is very fucking different than calling the Coast Guard, which absolutely explains why the Coast Guard came out and said at first that they had not received a call from the kids that night. The Coast Guard's initial statement said they weren't informed until 12:30. Then the Coast Guard later changed their story and said, oh wait, actually we did. And it seems to me that that first call was most likely an off the record to a friend kind of deal, which means these people freaked out and didn't call the Coast Guard until after all these people showed up at Jax's house.
I told you, they all connected.
Which would explain why in the course of this interview it went from Warren called the Coast Guard to we did. Now, when the subject turns to how the family got the phone back from these boys, you'll notice that there was a couple slip-ups.
Warren, you weren't at the house, and so you weren't there when they came to get the phone and all that. So
now remember, Warren just said that he wasn't at the house when the phone was got. And then Morgan talks about getting a phone call from one of the people in Christine Wells' group.
And how did they get the phone back?
So I got a call from a kid we went to high school with. He called me just asking me questions. He saw people posting on Snapchat, like the picture that was circulating.
Except this picture wasn't posted until July 5th. So how could this picture have been circulating on Snapchat that night? But let's continue.
And he called and he was asking questions. He was like, where's Nolan? When's the last time y'all seen him? And then he was like, so where are y'all at? And I told him, I said, we're at Jax's house. And then Warren got on the phone, and I don't know.
So they come to my house, right? And they kind of
hold on before we get there. Was it confrontational or was it just just trying to find? It was confrontational.
Yeah,
already?
wouldn't y'all agree?
Yeah.
He was 110%. He was very confrontational.
And when did was this on the night of the 4th or the next day?
This was the night when this was before they came and got the phone.
So this is the night of the 4th, yes.
You guys are missing a part of the story. How did you get from Ava's house to Jax's house? Because Miss Christine is watching you guys on the Life 360. So suddenly she's seeing the phone leave one location and go to another. Of course I would be upset. And now all of a sudden Warren is there when the phone stuff starts happening? He's listening to the phone call? Now I need y'all to remember that Warren also said that the phone was in his truck on the first conversation, as we have from this report. Meaning if we were to believe Warren that he was not there when everybody showed up looking for the phone at some time in between 11 and 1 a.m., so then that would mean after they heard this angry phone call, Warren gets the phone out of his vehicle and puts it in Jack's house and then leaves.
There's probably like 10, 15 people in my house I don't even know. And they're all up in our faces, going crazy, asking where Nolan is, and we don't know. And finally they get into Wyatt's face, and they're like, where's your boat? Where's the boat at?
Demanding his address.
Demanding his address and stuff like that. And he finally ends up giving it to him. We give them the phone. have the phone at this point. Then they get the address to his house. Then they go to his house. And they're searching all over his boat, what I heard and stuff like that. Well, anyways, I don't really know much about that, but they come back to my house at around 1 o'clock in the morning.
We called law enforcement. I was with Wyatt at the time. After we left Jax's house that night, I was with Wyatt, and one person we were with saw that their location was headed towards Wyatt's house. And so Wyatt got on the phone with 911 and was like, hey, these people are on the way to my house or already at my house. My mom and my dad are there alone, and they know nothing about this. But Wyatt's mom actually, when they were looking at the boat, they were actually walking from the boat, and she came out and started talking to them.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Wyatt, Morgan, and Jax were all together. Warren was gone for some reason at this point. 10 to 15 people just barge into your house. Don't know why your grandparents weren't around. That might explain some things, huh? Guess y'all had the house all to your fucking self that weekend. But then they ask Wyatt for his address so that they can go look at the boat. Wyatt gives them the address. They start heading over there. Wyatt and Morgan get into a car and leave Jax's house. Somebody else that you were with that we aren't hearing about is tracking someone else's phone. I don't know if it was somebody who was with the group that they had access to, or if they were tracking Nolan's phone and they saw it was heading to Wyatt's house. And even though Wyatt gave them the address and
she is cooking. I don't care if you gotta slow motion it. Understand what she's putting down. Please slow motion it. Save it before they try to come after. Bruh, you must understand what she's putting down.
instead of calling his parents, he calls 911 and tells them, my parents don't know anything about that's going on. Can you send police over there? Now, mind you, it was about half an hour after being on the phone with Warren that Christine was able to actually call and report him missing. But she was having to go back and forth and go down to all these different agencies because nobody would fucking help her. And frankly, I want to know why all of this confrontation was left out of the fucking report. Like, if this family had to be removed from 2 different properties by the police, why is there no record of that? And in fact, it wasn't until after these confrontations that MDMR and Ocean Springs Police apparently had their little conversations about who was going to be taking over the case. Because remember, the Jackson County Sheriff Lieutenant told them that deputies had spoken with several friends that had traveled to the island on the vessel with Nolan, and that when they were left, he was in the company of an unknown female. So now, even though Warren had supposedly called the Coast Guard, all these family members are telling the police that the kid is missing. These are the people that last saw them. They're all like, we last saw him on the island. Still, the deputies said that they did not have reason to believe that there was any water-related exigencies or emergencies. Don't worry, y'all. I've got a lot fucking more to say about this stuff, so come back for part 2. I'm going to be immediately recording it because Warren fucked up pretty badly in this interview, and I'll show you why.
Alright, now I hope y'all still with me. Make sure you get the likes up so this could get pushed in the algorithm, because people need to see this information. Alright, let's get part 2.
Where we had left off, Warren had already called Miss Christine, and then they somehow ended up at Jax's grandparents' house. That's where they all stayed that weekend, and so that's why Nolan's keys were over there. They had to have been at the grandparents' house, who mysteriously never showed up during any of these confrontations. Somehow the phone had gone from the party that they were all at to Jax's place, and then Warren left after a phone call to Morgan. According to them, 10 to 15 people showed up and just walked into Jax's house and demanded the phone. Wyatt gave the address in which the boat was at. They all start migrating over there. Then Morgan and Wyatt and another friend are tracking their 360s and seeing that they're going over to Wyatt's house. Then they call 911 to tell them that the police are on the way to his house. Then they're searching the boat, and then they come back to Jax's house around 1 o'clock in the morning, according to him. Mind you, that's when they explain to the police about their friend being missing. And so then the report says at 1:38 in the morning, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office say that they spoke to several of the friends that were on the vessel with Nolan, saying that he was in the company of an unknown female. But Morgan, Jax, and Warren all claimed that they did not travel to the island on the same boat as Nolan. So who did they talk to? Because it sounds to me like they had told the police that they were on the same boat as him. Keeping in mind that this is what Warren told Miss Christine.
Named Katie. And so then it turned into, Katie is also missing. No one can find her. in the explanation of no one knows this Katie, like we've never met her.
And Tristan said this.
I was talking on my other buddy's phone, talking to Warren. He was dialing Coast Guard because he hung up the phone and was like, hey, this is them, bye, and hung up the phone. And that was the last time I talked to him.
Mind you, Tristan is friends with Katie. They are mutuals. I have confirmed this. So now that we've got that timeline fucking straight, let's back up to something that Warren said during this interview.
If you're motivated enough to do it, yeah. Like, I made a phone call to my mom, and I had to call her like 8 times before she picked up because either her service was bad because she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side, or my service was bad, and it was just hard to get through.
Do y'all see that?
Was somebody mother on the boat? Was somebody mother on the island? Check it out, y'all.
Let me play it again slower for you.
Either her service was bad because she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side, or my service was bad, and it was just hard to get through.
Oh no. Not only did Warren confirm that his mom was on the south side of the island, but Warren himself said that if you're motivated enough, you can call somebody. I tried calling my mom 8 times. Yet this is what he said last time.
A little off the island, you have cell coverage, and even on the island, like I called my mom when we were on the island, it was fine.
So which is it? Did you call your mom with ease, or did you try to...
Protect J. Megan at all costs. Protect this lady. And this goes to show you all that shit Brandon Tatum be talking about. Oh, y'all just don't like white people. It's because they're white. It's because we wouldn't be playing Secret Service Sam over here. We wouldn't be playing J. Megan over here. We wouldn't be playing no damn Nancy Grace if it was just about skin color. Understand, this is a war of good and evil. This is a spiritual war. I'm not thinking about that. Protect J. Megan at all costs.
Call her 8 times because you were motivated to get in touch with her. But Warren wasn't the only one to slip up, because listen.
And he's on the phone with Cito, and he's trying to get them on the phone. And as he stated in the moment, he's like, Cito's just asking all these dumb questions. I can't figure out what's going on. And so finally hangs up. And after the trim to the motor started to work again. So they manually trim it down by the buttons on the motor, trimmed it down, and some electronics started to come back on. And they got the boat to crank over, and they're like, all right, untie us.
So first off, Jax just proved that the boys put the phone on mute during the call with Cito. Because I've listened to the entire 8-minute call, and at no point did they ever say anything about them asking all these stupid questions. Then he said after they hung up on the Cito, that's when it started working again, and they said, okay, untie us, implying that it had been tied up to the other boat the entire time. But we see in this video that they are hauling the line back in right here as he's on the phone. See, you can see right here where the line is being pulled in from across the way where the boat is stationed. Meaning he had already hung up with Cito at that point, and he had to have been on the phone with someone else. And what we see here...
Who said that in the last video? Was it the last video or the video before last? I said that video you can't hear through the video who the hell he on the phone with. We don't know who he on the phone with. We just hear Brandon Tatum loud ass mouth saying he's on the phone with Cito. That's why he keeps on reiterating he's on the phone with Cito. We don't know who the hell he on the phone with in that video.
Is once again, we have an interview where they go into so much detail about stuff that doesn't matter.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and first off explain a boat.
We fucking get how a bilge pump works. We get it by now.
That
Stop
talk.
fucking talking about the bilge pump. What we actually want to hear about is the multiple stops that were made before ending up back at the grandparents' house before they even took the boat to the boat dock. We want you guys to explain how the Cito was canceled by the grandfather on the captain's private line before you guys had even hung up with Cito. That's why nobody believes a word that you are saying. Because I showed y'all yesterday how AI had clearly doctored these photos. If you missed it, look, silver pole. Look, no silver pole. It's actually white. And if you look at this picture in the grandparents' driveway of the Triton, you will see that the little handrails are not leaning over, you will see that the rails are going straight up and down and not leaning, which is why I also suspect that the identity of whoever this is was intentionally covered up, because first off, who wears this weird swimsuit thing? This is somebody who, if they were with them, would have stood out in a crowd. But this woman who's in a red striped swimsuit with a white baseball cap shows up in a lot of different pictures, just oh so obscured. Here she is again, handing out beers on Bart's boat. So I personally suspect that whoever that was in fact on the Triton, and they used AI to change her clothing and to obscure her identity. Because I think this was either Warren's mother or Wyatt's stepmother, which would explain the older female voice people have said they've heard on the Ceto. Because otherwise, why would he need to call his mother 8 times? Unless, according to his own words,
If you're motivated enough to do it, yeah.
because remember, there is a 4th boat out there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Holy fuck, I just accidentally stumbled onto something that literally is concrete proof. Oh my god, next video coming, oh my god!
I'ma try to get the 3rd video. I try to wait for it, but I need to get y'all this so y'all could go ahead and screen record it. But I just came across a video, people already on it. They are already on it. You got people already saying, no, he didn't just say his mother was on that island. Watch this, y'all.
He didn't just admit that his mother was at Horn Island too, right? He didn't just admit this.
Realistically, you could.
You could. If you want to sit,
could.
if you're motivated enough to do it, yeah. Like, I made a phone call to my mom, and I had to call her like 8 times before she picked up, because either her service was bad, she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side, or my service was bad, and it was just hard to get through. But like, if I went and posted a video on Snapchat, like honestly, I don't think it would like either post or send to somebody. I think, I sent my buddy where we were at, a buddy of mine. I was like, hey, come meet us. And I sent him a video, and he was like, dude, I couldn't get a hold of you all day. And like, that explains the point. Like, I sent him a video where we were at, and it never sent until I got inshore, because I had to.
Did you hear that? Was she at Horn Island? Because he said he tried to call her, but she was on the back side of the island. Let me hear this one more time.
Like, I made a phone call to my mom, and I had to call her like 8 times before she picked up, because either her service was bad, she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side. I had to call her like 8 times before she picked up, because either her service was.
I can't hold it in. I can't hold it out. Try to be quiet. I can't hold it in. This is why some people are saying, is Brandon Tatum using his officer skills to put them in their own interrogation? Because if he really was an officer like he said, we all know, I don't know how many of y'all know, if you want to get a lie out of somebody, if you want to see if they lying or not, all you do is gotta let them talk. All you do is gotta let somebody talk to figure out if they lying or not. He let them talk, record this shit, and upload it. If you analyze what the hell they're telling on themselves. I done heard some people saying, shit, Brandon Tatum, he's setting them up. I heard people say that, but I don't think so. I think he's just as slow. I think he's just as slow. Once you slow, you think everybody's slow. That's how slow works. I'm telling you, this is how it works. My bad, yeah. It just sometimes I be trying to let the video play, but all that pressure and excitement, I just can't hold it in. But let's get it, y'all.
Bad. She was on the back side of the aisle on the south side. I had to call her like 8 times before she picked up, because either her service was bad, she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side. But like, if I went and posted a video on Snapchat, like honestly, I don't think it would like either post or send to somebody. I think, I sent my buddy where we were at, a buddy of mine. I was like,
you guys tell me, let me know what you think. Was he talking about the 4th of July, or was he talking about another occasion?
Nah, don't give him no ammo.
Back on the next interview and say that was another occasion. Boy, it's so many things like that in the interview.
Yeah, and y'all seen the caption when it said, why are they saying Nolan Wells' full name? Like, if your homeboy, you speaking about you going to have a little nickname. Well, let's just say they don't have a nickname for Nolan Wells. You're not going to be sitting up there saying Nolan Wells. What? You saying his whole name? That don't sit well. That do not sit well. Listen, bro, they telling on themselves. Y'all make sure y'all screen record these videos. If you ain't got no room or space on your phone, just do like Lil.
She did not say parts of it looked arranged. She did not say the framing was unfortunate. She said the entire thing was optics. All of it. Every element in the frame. Then she pointed to her proof. Not the island, not the water behind them, not the boat, not the attorney standing on the sand, not the timing of a trip taken in the middle of a national death investigation. She pointed at something so small that nobody watching had consciously registered it. It sits in plain view in an image you have already scrolled past, and once she names it, you cannot look at that photograph the same way again. That is one half of this. The other half arrived quietly, during the same broadcast, when a viewer typed 6 words into the live chat. No theory in it, no accusation. A factual question with a factual answer that should have taken 4 seconds. It stopped the room. Not the host, who had covered this case for over a month. Not the former judge. Not the strategist. 3 professionals, and not one of them could produce a date. Both of those silences lead to the same place. Let us start with the photograph. Start with what is actually in the frame. Open sand, shallow water behind it, flat, no chop. Daylight, strong and high, the kind that comes off white sand hard enough to force a squint. A small group standing on the beach. An attorney among them. Nobody in that image is moving. That is the first thing worth noticing. There is no motion blur, no half-turned head, no one caught mid-sentence with their eyes closed. Every person in that photograph knows the shutter is coming. They have arranged themselves for it. Someone stood where the photographer wanted them to stand. Now hold that against the stated purpose of the trip. This was described as legal work, fact-finding, a team returning to a location to understand geography, to evaluate what a person could see from a given point, to walk ground that no photograph fully conveys. That kind of work has a specific quality, and everyone who has ever done it recognizes it. It is slow, it is tedious. It involves standing in one spot for 11 minutes looking at a tree line. It generates notes, measurements, phone video shot badly and vertically because nobody is filming for an audience. It does not generate this, because the entire value of a site inspection depends on nobody watching it happen. The moment it has spectators, it stops producing information and starts producing something else. And there is a camera in this one. Not incidentally. Not a bystander with a phone at distance. A camera close enough, positioned well enough, that the resulting image travels nationally within hours and holds up at thumbnail resolution. Someone wanted this picture to exist. The strategist saw all of that in the first 2 seconds. Then she kept looking, found the one element that proved it, and said it out loud. She said it was all optics, down to the color of the tank top, a shirt. That is the proof, not the attorney, not the boat, not the timing, a garment. Follow it through, because it is smaller than it sounds, and it is far worse. Somebody stood in front of a mirror that morning and made a decision about how a piece of clothing would read against pale sand under high sun. Not whether it was comfortable, not whether it was clean, how it would photograph. That decision is only possible if the photograph already exists in someone's head, which means the image was not taken. It was made, and made things have authors. That is the pivot, and it is where this stops being about a beach. The question is no longer what the picture shows. The question is, who sat in a room, weighed the options, heard the obvious objection, and decided this was the right move anyway. Because the objection is not subtle. Anyone in that room could have said it. 4 young men at the center of a nationally watched death investigation, photographed smiling into daylight at the place where it happened. There is no version of that meeting where nobody raised a hand. Someone overruled it. The strategist was asked more than once whether this looked like panic. A group of frightened kids and a lawyer improvising badly under pressure. That reading is available. It is generous. It would explain everything. She refused it. She would not call it a mistake, and she would not call it sloppy. She used one word, and she used it deliberately, knowing exactly what it cost the people it describes. intentional. The judge came at it from the other direction, and she started by giving away almost everything. Returning to a scene is ordinary. Defense teams do it constantly. Photographs flatten distance. Maps lie about elevation. You cannot understand what a person could see from a specific point at night until you have stood at that point yourself. She has watched it done properly for a career, and she has no objection to the practice. Then she named what makes this version different, and the phrase does not leave room to argue. Inherently premature. Nobody has been charged. There is no indictment, no docket number attached to a defendant, no discovery schedule, no motions calendar, no trial date, no proceeding of any kind anywhere in the state of Mississippi. You cannot build a defense for a trial that does not exist. That is not a technicality. It is the whole thing, because if the legal function is removed, something has to occupy the space, and only one candidate remains. Not investigation. Output. Sit with what that means about the audience. Fact-finding has one reader, and it is the attorney who ordered it. This had an audience of millions before anyone left the dock, and there is a serious counter-argument, which the panel did not pretend away. When your clients are being convicted nightly by anonymous accounts, when their faces are in edits set to music and their names are in thumbnails, silence is not neutrality. Silence is forfeiture. There are competent attorneys who believe visibility is the only responsible answer when the alternative is watching a 19-year-old sentenced by an algorithm that never sees a courtroom. That position is real. Nobody on that panel called it stupid. Their position was narrower and harder to dodge. Even granting all of it, this was the wrong instrument. Aimed badly, fired far too early. Her assessment of the result was 3 words long. More questions, not fewer. They went to that island to relieve pressure. They came back carrying more of it than when they left. The island was not the only appearance. There have been sit-downs, channels, cameras, long-form answers given to hosts with audiences, and no obligation to be careful. The judge's ruling on that was absolute. She would not have put anyone on anyone's channel. Not one person. Not one segment. Not once, not at this stage, not for any reason offered. Her reasoning has nothing to do with what gets said. Every public statement becomes fixed, transcribed within the hour, archived, time-stamped, indexed, and laid beside every other account that person has ever given of that night by people with unlimited time and no interest in being fair to them. And the trap is not lying. Lying would almost be survivable because lying is deliberate and can be tracked. The trap is inconsistency, a sequence recalled in a different order, a time that shifts by 20 minutes between March and May, a detail told one way to an investigator and another way to a host, not because anyone is hiding anything, but because that is what memory does. Especially memory formed at night, especially memory formed on a night that went wrong. Every person watching this would fail the same test about an ordinary evening last spring. You would fail it about last Tuesday. It will not be received that way. It will be clipped, laid side by side, and captioned. And it lands on credibility, which is the only asset any of these young men currently have, and credibility does not regenerate. Which brings the judge to a sentence that should have ended this strategy the day it was said. Advising them to sit for those interviews right now is doing them a disservice. Understand what that is. A former judge, on the record, stating that the plan protecting these 4 is the thing damaging them. Then she said the part that explains every move still to come. This is not the time to amplify. This is the time to lower the temperature. And they are not doing that. Retaining counsel is not the problem. Nobody on that panel suggested it was. Anyone standing near the center of a nationally watched death investigation should have a lawyer. Treating that as an admission is not analysis. It is appetite. The problem is the order of operations. You retain counsel. You establish that all questions go through counsel. You decline to comment through official channels. Then you do interviews. You return to the island with a camera. You distribute statements to the press with quotes selected for reproduction. And then you object to being part of a public conversation. You cannot claim the protection of silence while operating a broadcast. Those are not two strategies running in parallel. They are one strategy canceling itself out in real time, and everyone watching can see it. The strategist pushed that into territory with actual consequences, because defamation has been in the air for weeks. Threats, letters, the word used publicly by people who understand what it signals. Her point was mechanical. Amplification makes you a participant. Not a bystander harmed by a conversation happening around you, a party inside it, feeding it, extending its life every time you speak. A defamation claim brought by someone actively fueling the discourse they say is destroying them is harder to bring and considerably harder to prove. Then the judge supplied the law underneath it, and this is the part nobody threatening a lawsuit seems to have thought through. The bar for defamation is deliberately high. The reason it is high is the defense. The defense to defamation is truth, which means anyone who files opens discovery. Every question avoided in public becomes a question answered under oath, with a court reporter present and penalties attached. Every timeline gets deposed. Every phone becomes an exhibit. Filing does not close a subject. Filing pries it open with a legal instrument and no ability to stop halfway through. Then the strategist ended the argument in one line. You cannot have a megaphone, amplify, and then complain about the acoustics. She stopped talking about this case then, and started describing a shape she has watched form many times before. The first move is legal intimidation. Cease and desist letters, defamation threats, motions filed and then publicized. The publicizing is the entire mechanism. A motion filed quietly is legal work. A motion filed loudly is a message, and the message is not addressed to a defendant. It is addressed to the audience. Step 1 is casting the public as the problem. Step 2 is casting the press as the problem. Attach a filing to a threat, and the threat acquires weight, and weight produces silence, and silence is the actual deliverable, not a verdict. A quieter room. Watch how efficiently that works on people with no legal budget. A letter costs the sender $400. It costs the recipient a lawyer, a week, and their nerve. Most people delete the video. That is not a side effect of the strategy. That is the strategy. Then she gave her read on the timing, and it is the sharpest observation made on that broadcast. When legal intimidation is the first move, or an unusually loud early move, in her professional experience it often signals that the evidence supporting the threat may not be there. And then she stopped herself. Nobody asked her to. Nobody challenged her. She interrupted her own point to say it does not mean anyone is guilty. She said it twice, in different words. Bad communication does not indicate guilt. Bad communication creates complications. That distinction is the most important sentence in this video, so it will be said plainly here as well. She is not describing what happened on an island. She is describing what happened in a conference room. Those are different rooms on different days with different people in them, and anyone collapsing one into the other is misrepresenting her. This channel will not do that. But it will follow the question she raised to the only place it goes. If the strategy is not built around evidence, and it is not built around a trial that does not exist, then it is built around something. So name the fear, not the autopsy, not the toxicology, not the timeline, not the phones, not a witness nobody has heard from yet. Backlash. She said it directly, and the chain runs in one direction only. Backlash produces scrutiny. Scrutiny illuminates areas nobody wants illuminated, and that holds for almost every human being alive, regardless of what they did or did not do on any specific night. Fear of attention, not fear of evidence. Run every move back through that reading, and each one clicks into place. The island was never about sightlines. The interviews were never about correcting a record. The letters were never about winning a case. All of it is reputation management, executed by people who confuse two professions and only noticed after the photograph went national. And there is one more choice worth examining, which the panel found revealing for reasons that have nothing to do with politics. The friends retained counsel with a high-profile national practice and an unmistakable political association. Asked about the defamation angle, that attorney called it a distraction and said the focus belonged on the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. The strategist's objection was arithmetic. Attach an ideology to a story like this, and you are speaking to half the room. The other half stopped listening before the sentence finished. That is not pursuing truth. That is selecting an audience and writing off everyone else. The judge accepted the word distraction and turned it back around. Everything done since the attorneys arrived, she said, pulls attention away from the evidence building that is critical right now. Which is a strange sentence to hear about a case where nobody outside that investigation can describe a single thing being built, including the 3 people on that panel.